Thank you, Reverend Keithley. Please be seated. So before we proceed with the items on the agenda, I need to remind you of the usual housekeeping messages. There are no fire alarm tests planned for this evening, so if the alarm sounds, please leave the chamber by the nearest door, then follow the illuminated fire exit signs and assemble in the car park at the rear of the building. I notice we do have some members of the public in the gallery, and I thank you for coming. You do have the right to film this meeting if you so wish, but I would like to know before we begin whether anyone in the room plans to do this. If you intend to film the meeting or part of it, would you please indicate now by raising your hand? Take that as a no. Thank you very much. We have the first item on this evening's agenda, and it's apologies for absence. We've received apologies from Councillors Higgs, Martin, Preston and A. Walker. Are there any more apologies?
Mr. Mayor, apologies for Councillor Fielding.
Thank you. And Councillor Bridge as well. So that's Councillor Fielding and Councillor Bridge. The next item on the agenda is confirmation of minutes. Can I please have a proposal that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 11th of September 2025 be approved as a correct record?
I should like to propose them, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a seconder?
I'd like to second. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Does anyone want to comment on the factual accuracy of the minutes or propose an amendment? I'll take that as a no then. Would those members present at the 11th of September meeting who are in favour of confirming the minutes as a correct record, please clearly indicate. Unanimous, but I will say those against or any The minutes of the 11th of September meeting are confirmed. The next item on the agenda is item 3, declarations of interest. So, do any members or officers have any interest to declare on any of the items included on the agenda? No? Is that right? No? So the next item is item 4, announcements. I would like to remind councillors that I've requested an additional meeting of full council in order for members to review and discuss the local government reorganisation proposal before it's submitted to Cabinet for approval. This is on Thursday 20th of November at 7 p.m, and I do encourage you all to attend. The Leader of the Council and the Chief Executive would also like to invite all members to an additional briefing session focused on the development of the free unitary proposal for Lancashire, and this is scheduled for Tuesday 18th of November at 7 p.m. I would also like to announce that I'll be attending the Fleetwood Remembrance Parade and service on Remembrance Sunday, and I encourage all councillors to attend their local remembrance celebrations. We've received no questions from the public or questions on notice from councillors. So the next item is item 7, executive reports.
Mr. Mayor, forgive me, I don't want to be for interrupting the business of tonight, but I think there's something that you should know.
Thank you.
I'm not in the habit of giving other men flowers, and certainly not in the council chamber, but I think that you should have these. It's all right, comrades, you left them in the restaurant last night. Would you accept these?
I will, sir, thank you.
It's not delivery charge, Mr. Mayor.
And you don't have to curtsy either.
We put them in water overnight.
Oh, very generous of you.
There's some nice tangerine ones in there. There you go, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
If all else fails, at least you've got some flowers.
I think he deserves a bigger round of applause. So before we do the executive reports, a polite reminder that each speaker has 3 minutes only, and there'll be 10 minutes of speaking overall for each executive report. So if you want to comment or ask a question, please clearly indicate by raising your hand, and be reminded that all questions will not be answered individually. The portfolio holder or the leader will answer and come back with his answers after all questions. So first, we also note that we may refuse supplementary questions in order to ensure that as many different members as possible are able to speak or ask a question within the 10 minutes allocated. So can I come to the Leader of the Council, the report of the Leader, Councillor Michael Vincent.
Thank you, sir. Can we just clarify that, please? Because obviously if there's going to be supplementary questions, I don't see how I can answer all questions at the end.
Apparently, for the executive report, you can answer each question.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for clarifying that. I don't know if I'm the only one who would like an explanation as to why Councillor Higginson just gave the Mayor flowers.
Got to be there, Michael.
Happy to answer any questions other than that one.
So, Councillor Vincent, will you please introduce your report? That was quick. Right, we have to answer Councillor Fail first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At Lancashire's 16th of October full council meeting, Labour put forward a motion requesting a permanent ban on fracking in our country. Reform councillors nailed their colours to the mast by voting against it. Despite overwhelming concern about the environmental and health risks of fracking, Reform made it clear they are open to its return. Shale gas sits under much of Lancashire, and here on the Fylde coast we know all about what a return to fracking would mean. Our greenfields turned into gas fields, increased risk of earthquakes and structural damage, toxic water pollution, airborne pollutants and noise, heavy traffic and land degradation, and all without any meaningful positive impact on bills or jobs. As far as Wyre Labour are concerned, fracking isn't welcome on the Fylde coast or anywhere else in Lancashire. We will continue to fight for a cleaner, greener and safer Lancashire. Would you join the Labour group in pledging to stand firm against fracking and its dangers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I was one of the people who thought that the policy that we took previously, which was that there was no fracking planned in Wyre, and therefore we didn't need to have a stance on it, was the correct stance. However, one Sunday morning, however many years ago, I was sat with my daughter watching television, and our television visibly shook as a result of an earthquake. And at that moment, I'm afraid you can't sit on the fence anymore. So this is not a council opinion because we've not debated it, and it's not for the council to have a policy. But my own view is that fracking will only line the pockets of a couple of individuals. It's not for the best interest of the people of Great Britain or Wyre or the Fylde coast, particularly as we move towards unitarisation, in which case Wyre and Fylde will almost certainly be in the same authority. I can't sit here in good conscience and say that fracking is in anyone's best interest, and no, I personally am firmly against it.
Thank you, Councillor.
Got membership.
We have Councillor Higginson.
Hello again, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Vincent, can you clarify this council's position once and for all on the situation of planning consent for the proposed incinerator at the Hill House site? Is this council's is it the council's position to object? Does it have a position, and if so, whatsoever? And does Councillor Vincent also realise the amount of opposition amongst Bourne Ward residents, and that there is a strong case being made with the Secretary of State to have the consent overturned? So does Councillor Vincent also realise that the support of this council is paramount in getting this decision overturned in order to support council taxpayers of this borough? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Higginson. I'm not sure that the view of this council is paramount to it being turned over by the Secretary of State. It's not an application that does concern us. I know obviously we have some involvement in Hill House. My own personal view, and I've made this clear previously, which is that incineration solves a lot of problems for this country, but provided it's carbon neutral and it's not dirty energy and it's not all just dumped on the people of Fleetwood and Thornton, because we do enough of our waste disposal in that area. So our position is that we are against it, but any objection would have to come from us as a planning authority. So when we've looked at what formal objection we could put together that was coherent, we haven't been able to do that. So we can have a policy against it, we don't want it, etc. But that and raising a formal objection are two different things.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rushford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Vincent, I'm hoping you're aware of an article that was in The Guardian last week, which was talking about the forever chemical situation, PFOAs, and the fact that, some of the chemicals, as in PFAs, are being ignored by the Environment Agency, and these are considered to be reprotoxic chemicals. Is the council sort of trying to put a little bit of encouragement or pressure onto the Environment Agency to look at these? Can you just give us an explanation of your involvement, please? Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Rushford, I am aware of the article. Even the Guardian article took me about 3 times to read it and understand it, but ultimately the EA's response in the article was effectively that because there is no defined testing method for these chemicals, they don't test for them. The Guardian obviously spoke to an independent scientist who said he had means of testing for them and that wasn't acceptable. The issues that are raised in that article are for the EA to respond to, but the people who are helping us with comms on that are getting the answers, and once we've got them, we'll review our position on it. But clearly, if it's found that there are, the last thing anybody wants is for there to be this investigation and then another one. So if this is an issue, if this is something that us applying pressure is going to achieve something, we'll do that. But I need to hear back more technical information from the EA before I can form a view.
Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question links to item 5 within the leader's report, the leisure contract procurement. It mentions that the 2 bids are being reviewed during October. I wondered if there was any further update on this, and if you could tell us how long it is expected, and if both bidders are still carrying on the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter, and it's really good to have good news because I don't get to share much of it. I can't name the provider because it's all subject to contract, but we have agreed, or sort of agreed to accept a proposal from one of the 2 providers. It will see huge investment in the leisure centres. Wyre will put some investment in, but they will put the most of it in. However, our investment is repayable by them, so it's effectively a loan. There will be a subsidy for the first 2 years, but it will be certainly no more or as much as we're currently paying. After that, there'll be a small surplus, and then for the duration of the contract, there'll be a significant surplus. So going into local government reorganisation, this is genuinely great news because it means that the new authority doesn't look at the leisure centres and see a burden, it will look at the leisure centres and see an income.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Molyneux.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. My question is on item 2 with regard to paragraph 2.7. This is on the Jamieson Road landfill. could the leader inform council as to what end is the lease to be reviewed and confirm that it won't be extended, and also confirm that the lease will not be renewed when it expires? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So there's two things here. Both have, I appreciate that that caused some confusion, so I'll be clear about what they mean. This lease will expire on the 31st of December 2027, and after that there is a period in which Transwaste have to make the site good, but there'll be no more tipping. We've already said, and I've already made very clear, we won't be extending the lease, we won't be reviewing it, there'll be no fudge of that, it stops. Okay? The review of the lease is a mechanism that's in the lease where we have to work with Transwaste to try and agree to accommodate any changes in legislation, basically. So, for example, if they said you can't tip iPads on landfill anymore, we would have to review the lease to say you can't tip iPads anymore. So it's not a review of the terms of the lease, we can't impose anything on them, it has to be done cooperatively, and it's really about changes in legislation, regulation, etc. We are going to go ahead with that. I must say that our consultants aren't particularly optimistic about it delivering any results that the people would want it to, but we've got the mechanism, makes sense to use it, so we will use it.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And my question relates to the AGC investigation. I attended an event at Gamble Road, a drop-in event that had been hosted by Lee Day, who are environmental lawyers. It was incredibly well attended, and I was there obviously in my capacity as Bourne Ward councillor. Whilst we appreciate, and this is really reflecting a lot of the comments that came from residents on the evening, whilst we appreciate that the current EA investigation around AGC and the testing, which has been based on modelling from where that wind has come out of their stacks and landed on the ground, that is the current testing that is taking place. There was a huge concern from residents that there are lots of other areas around the site, the old Hill House ICI site, which they feel should also be being tested. So the real question from residents is, whilst we understand that the AGC investigation is taking place with the EA, does Wyre Borough Council, with its statutory duties, have any intention of investigating the wider contamination that may be prevalent from the old ICI activities? And certainly speaking to occupational health that have been into the site, certainly speaking to various ex-workers at the ICI site, there would be an indication that there is also potentially PFAS and PFOA around the site, and certainly mercury pits and other quite nasty items. And now we understand that the land is privately owned, but equally it is an enterprise zone, so there is a sort of dual role there as well. So I think the real question from residents is, are we ever going to have a full understanding of the extent of contamination, or is it going to be purely and simply this AGC investigation? Thank you.
So it's funding that answers your question. So ultimately, at the moment, this investigation is seen as into the FOA and specifically, and the AGC emissions, alleged emissions specifically. Every year, and there are delays in this moving forward while the next round of funding gets signed off. It's very specific, it's ring-fenced for certain purposes. There's not just a pot of money so that we can widen this. If it's on private land, there's a different investigation regime anyway. So if it was on Hill House, that wouldn't fall within our powers. There's two separate regimes. We talked about this at Management Board on the briefing on just Wednesday, where effectively we said it doesn't make any sense because you've effectively got a situation where we lead on, but the EA do the investigation in the residential areas outside Hill House, and we just leave AGC to investigate themselves effectively on Hill House. So we don't have any powers on that site, as far as I'm aware anyway. So no, there are no plans to do it. Do I agree that there should be some sort of public inquiry into ICI and the emissions from ICI and any threat to health and any contaminations and things? Yes, I do agree with that. And I would happily support a call for that, but this council is not in a position to either fund it, lead it or do it scientifically.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Technically we're out of time, but as Councillor Birch is the last one on the list,
It's only a quick one.
fine.
I don't think I need that. Michael, I was just wondering that a number of residents have approached me about the takeover of the YMCA, and they have annual memberships. Will those continue to be honoured if they pass over the time when the new firm will take over?
Yes.
That's written into the contract. I thought it would have been, so I tried to reassure people.
Yeah, so obviously that level of detail isn't yet agreed. There's been a bid and it's now subject to contracts and the contract will be agreed. But I believe it was a condition that effectively anybody who's joined up until that point, it will just transition across.
I thought it would, but I thought I'd just bring it to mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent, and that concludes the consideration of the Leaders' Report, and we'll now move on to the report of the Resources Portfolio Holder. So, Councillor Mackay, could you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a quick point. On item 4.1, there was an error on my report. The Cabinet meeting was actually in August 25, not July 25, so sorry about that, but happy to take any comments or questions.
Do we have any? No hands up, so I'll take that. Did you put your hand up, Ken?
I was adjusting my glasses, Mr. Mayor.
You got me going then.
It didn't work. Right, that concludes consideration of the Resources Portfolio Holder's report. And we'll now move on to the report of the Street Scene, Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holder, or Councillor Vincent, who is substituting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will try and answer any questions.
Councillor Lady Dawson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Oh, thank you. Sorry. I would just like to say a very big thank you to the officers as regards the Garstang skate park. It's coming along, it's got a tarmac base now which is settling in, and hopefully the rest of the equipment will go in. It does look good even though it's very, very early stage. Thank you very much indeed. And the other question I was just going to say was toilets. We had a problem the night before last where youngsters got into the disabled toilet on the community centre car park. And they didn't trash things, but they just messed it all up. And again, I'd like to say a big thank you to the officers and to Danfo for speedily clearing it up. And I think the police have got the guys, or the youngsters, and I just wish they'd made them come and clear it up, but still, I'm not allowed to say that. So big thank you to the officers for getting that done and sorted very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you wish to respond?
No.
No. Councillor Rushworth put a hand up, or Rushford, sorry. You've been called that before, haven't you?
Yeah. It made my car insurance null and void. Councillor Vincent. I was hoping it was Councillor Bridge. He does always cheer me up. Anyway, so get back to basics. I think it's important to note that the dog poo patrol in Priesel and Not End have hung up their bags and their shovels after picking up over 3,000 dollops of dog mess. So I think they've done a really good job in highlighting the problem, and I am very aware of the process of taking in complaints around dog mess. But I would ask that their great industrious efforts do not literally go to the dogs, and that we can have an enforcement order over there on occasion, please. Thank you.
Do you wish to respond?
I'm happy to echo the praise of the people who've collected 3,000 dog. That you know, it shouldn't be necessary, but that sort of community spirit gives you hope. apart from the feedback deciding the officers with regards to the patrols, because you're right, we should be patrolling everywhere at least occasionally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That concludes the consideration of the Street Scene, Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holders report. We'll now move on to the report of the Planning Policy and Economic Development Portfolio Holder. Councillor Marinell, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Report for members. Happy to take questions. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Councillor Fair.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As a councillor for Poulton and the Cabinet member with responsibility for economic development, can you tell me what action is this council taking or going to take with regard to the numerous vacant premises in Poulton's Teamlow Centre? Can I ask whether or not the council are talking to the owners of these properties to understand what problems exist and what intentions they have with regard to these premises? If the council aren't talking to the owners, can I suggest they do?
Care to respond, Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for the question. Yes, I've got a meeting this week with Mark Fenton and Booth's owners, so I can come back when I know a bit more. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Cartridge.
Just a point, just to lead on what Councillor Marinell said. I was very lucky to go and view a museum in the Teamlow Centre, and that's been a really good initiative where Wyre Council has been working with with the units there and actually helping residents on a very worthwhile project. So thank you for that. I went there with my class last week. It was a fantastic opportunity. But my question, being an Wyre councillor, I know that residents depend on the Knott End ferry, and for the past few years, funding's been renewed on an annual basis between Wyre and Lancashire County Council. Moving forward, will both authorities continue to honour this arrangement, or is this to discontinue? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Would you care to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for your question. We had a meeting on 28th of August with the ferry group. I chair the ferry group, and it's the LCC member is Councillor Alice Jones sitting opposite me. We talked about, the first question I actually asked before we started the meeting was that, I actually stated that as Wyre Council we are happy to put into the subsidy which we normally put in, and how did LCC feel about that. Councillor Jones did wax lyrical about how important it is to have the ferry, and of course it is, absolutely. And at the end of that I did ask her to clarify whether it was that her personal opinion or whether that was LCC's opinion. She said it was her personal opinion. I asked her did she know what LCC's opinion was, and she said no, we've no idea. So the officers that were sitting there did say that they were currently working through the budget, and that will take about 6 weeks. But because we need to do a tender for this now, because the 8-year contract finishes, I asked could it possibly be a lot quicker than that. They said 4 weeks. So I stuck with 4 weeks. I emailed them after 4 weeks. Councillor Jones did come back to me just to say she'd asked the officers. I didn't hear anything back after that. I heard nothing from any officer at LCC. After 6 weeks I emailed again, heard nothing back from anybody. I emailed again the other day, nothing back from anybody. Councillor Jones did get back to me to say that she'd try and find out again because she was interested to find out too, which I found very peculiar. So we are just up in the air at the moment. We're out to tender. We had a expression of interest put out in September with a return date of the 3rd of October. The expression of interest relates to a 10-year contract because most parties who will be interested would like a longer contract more than anything else. So as Wyre are happy to put in the money, we are now waiting for LCC, and they are just completely silent on the issue. And so we're just going to wait and find out. And it'd be very disappointing if they can't find the money for the subsidy, which we are happy to put in on our side. Thank you for your question. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Marinell. We have one more, and I'll get it right this time. Councillor Rushford.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a quick question with regards to its Section 4 Planning Enforcement Update 4.2. and I can see that the cost of going through the whole sort of process here was £6,900 to get resolution. I believe that to be money well spent. All I would like to ask is there any way the council can get that money back?
Do you care to respond?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you for your question. If it had gone to court, yes, we could have got some money back from them. They could have paid the cost, but it didn't get to court. They backed out at the last minute, which is what happened. So then, therefore, we've got the cost was £6,900. However, if you're looking for 4.3, so works in default direct action, we've now put that into process. So anything going forward, we can actually do this instead, and a charge will be made directly onto the property or onto the resident, and they will have to pay the money straight away. But if they can't pay the money straight away, it will go to the property. So when they sell the property, the council will get the money back. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Before I ask Councillor Wells, I'd just like to thank her for taking all the spare food home last night. It's very friendly.
It's feeding my lads tonight.
Would you like to make your point or ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for reminding me, telling everyone what a pig on my family is. Yeah, no, I'm just wanting to relate back to the Orsted transmission routing, if I can, Councillor Marinell. I appreciate that this report very carefully works through the steps that are actually involved at this stage, with it being a nationally significant infrastructure project. But as it rightly points out, we are a statutory consultee, and in terms of choosing the scoping corridor, there's been quite a lot of work. Orsted obviously reached out to the community, and there's been quite a number of conversations that could potentially make that northern corridor either an absolute disaster for the people of Wyre, or potentially a really, really massive opportunity to regenerate the area, to save considerable amounts of money, which could then be reinvested in the area. Indeed, it could achieve one of the Economic Prosperity Board goals, which is to upgrade Stanner, which would in turn assist many industries in expanding and having more opportunity at Hill House. As we've learned from our colleagues in Fylde, early engagement around the transmission routing is particularly important, particularly with Ofgem. And Fylde Borough Council are now reactively having to deal with Ofgem. And Ofgem released a letter about a month ago reminding NISO of the importance to deal with statutory consultees as early as possible. So my question is, would the portfolio holder be willing to have a chat with me about this, to understand the importance of potentially raising a letter through our cabinet to actually set out the potential opportunities versus the impacts for the scoping for the northern corridor? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Marinell, will you respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I mean, you've been to all the same meetings I've been to. They did look at Stanner, of course, as you're well aware. I'm happy to have a chat with you, but it's down to timing more than anything else. And they're going to make the decision end of this month, early next month. So it's probably too late, but still quite happy to have a chat with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's not too late.
Thank you.
We have a question from Councillor Minto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This concerns Fleetwood Market, and of course the leases are coming up, and we've done some background work on it, the council, and you've ascertained that there are no increases in many markets around us, so you're not going to increase ours. But I may put forward a little suggestion to you. With the amount of problems that we've been having at Fleetwood Market, would it not be a good idea to reduce the rent? Thank you.
Councillor Marinell, would you care to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Minto. We already do quite a lot at the moment. So electricity went up by 50% last time. We've capped that at £100,000. That's no more than they will currently be paid if it was gas and electric. So that's been a help to them. And also we've kept the summer and winter discount as well. So they paid less in the winter than they do in the summer. So we do help as much as possible. There are stuff going on in the background. Ruth asked a question last month regarding this. There is some legal stuff going around it. Once I know more, once I can say more, then I will do, absolutely. And we'll see what happens going forward. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Marinell. That concludes the consideration of the Planning Policy and Economic Development Portfolio Holders Report. We'll now move on to the report of the Neighbourhood Services Community Safety Portfolio Holder. So, Councillor Berry, could you present your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report's before colleagues. I'll do my best to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Councillor Berry? Stunned silence. That concludes the consideration of the Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety Portfolio Holders Report. And we'll now move on to the report of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holder. So, Councillor Bowen, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report's before you and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any? Councillor Fayle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In June, Reform's Lancashire County Council leader Stephen Atkinson was claiming his Doge people would...
Dodgy.
Possibly. And I quote, would help to root out wasteful spending so they can reinvest in frontline services. Now we hear that Reform-led LCC plans to close Thornton House and 9 other care homes in Lancashire. So far from making savings to reinvest in services, they plan to do the exact opposite to reinvesting in frontline services. They plan to decimate frontline services. What a complete and utter disgrace. The Reform-led County Council plan to remove care provision, thereby reducing frontline services. Reform UK might as well come out and say that they don't give a hoot about the service Thornton House provides to elderly residents in Wyre. Would you join the Labour group in condemning these disgraceful proposals and arrange for Wyre Council to formally call on the County Council to scrap these quite shameful proposals? Thank you.
Would you like to respond, Councillor?
Yeah, I agree with that because I've seen the same thing happen to places where my mother was for rehabilitation when she came out of hospital, and they do a fantastic job, and I think it's shameful that they are closing them, and they have closed them in the past. So yeah, we do agree with that, and we'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, I just want to fully agree with what Councillor Fayle has already said. But what is worrying to me is the fact that these proposed reform-led cuts to services throughout Lancashire, but particularly here in Wyre, are just the tip of a very large iceberg. But even more worrying than that is the fact that many Wyre residents will be dependent upon the voices and actions that the Reform councillors currently sat amongst us to fight for them and their vital services. So, Councillor Boyd, does the prospect of us all having to rely on these local Reform county councillors to help protect our vital services from draconian cuts not fill you with dread? Because going by what we've witnessed, or rather not witnessed since they were elected, and it's been highlighted tonight, no objection to the incinerator, fracking, and they've no idea whatsoever what's happening with the ferry. That prospect, to be honest, frightens me to death.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, and I think that we should get together and we need some answers next time there's a council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. Now is the opportunity, after the consideration of the... Oh, we've got another hand in the corner. Councillor Stevenson.
I'm obliged to you, Mr. Mayor. Now, what I'm going to talk about here is good stuff, definitely. It's not much about nothing. What I'm talking about, Lynn, is, you know, the lack of beef in the the shows what we put on the marine.
Question.
We don't put anything serious on. I mean, just see, for instance, if we had some Shakespeare, or Oscar Wilde, you know, the importance of being earnest. I don't think there's anybody called earnest in here, but I think our side are very earnest about this politics, but that's another matter. Just think what we could have. We could have, you know, we could have Othello, Romeo and Juliet, it's endless.
Is he like this in your group?
Endless.
Oh, he's himself. He did a program to say.
Push the tempers. We certainly get too much rain in things, so we don't want that. Yeah, a comedy of errors will be very appropriate to the front bench there sometimes. Sometimes. Not all the time, but most of the time. So, Lynn, do you not think it would be a good idea if we could, you know, put some serious stuff on? And what I'm concerned with is that, you know, you may feel that it's not really to the taste of well, the working class people who are in Wyre, you know, it's sort of, an absolute, would it not be, you know, would people not attend to see? You know, that is really the thing. I think we're lacking in our choice, and we, you know, we're very, very conservative.
I think you've made your point now, Councillor.
So, the question is, don't worry, Christmas is well and all that, but it's definitely coming. Do you think, Lynn, that it's a possibility that we could put some Shakespeare or Oscar Wilde or more serious stuff on in the future? I've got me hearing aids, so you'll have to speak.
Right, well, the events manager puts on events that are going to get the biggest audiences. I think if we put things that you wanted to come and watch, we would have a much smaller audience. So, and I think it's very derogatory of you to say about working class people not wanting to have Shakespeare or whatever, you know, so I'd rather you didn't say anything like that again, because it's bloody nasty, quite frankly.
Good. Well, thank you, Councillor. Can Councillor Stevenson remind me of something? Was it Oscar Wilde who on his deathbed said, either the wallpaper goes or I do? And I think that concludes the consideration of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holders report. Now is the opportunity for members of the Cabinet to make comments or ask questions on the reports of their colleagues. Do any Cabinet members wish to do so? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wish to make a comment on Councillor Bowen's report and some of the comments made by my colleagues there. What reform we've achieved in the first quarter of control of Lancashire County Council is to ruin all of the Conservatives' hard work on the finances and get them in £28 million of deficit in one quarter, commit to close care homes across the board, dither and delay on local government reorganisation, the mayoralty, etc. And if you look back to their election materials, they only made one commitment that was actually within their gift, because the rest of it was about things that are nothing to do with county councils. And that one commitment that they made was that they would freeze or cut council tax. Now, if you look at what's happening in Worcester, where they made the same promise, they are going to consult on increasing it by twice the statutory maximum and go by 10%. They promised to cut council tax. They're going to try and increase it by 10%. They have also made announcements in 9 other councils that we're going for the full maximum. So I just hope, Mr Mayor, that we've not been lied to in Lancashire as well, and that they will freeze or cut council tax and not increase it like they promised Otherwise, what use are they?
Do any other Cabinet members want to address a comment or a question to another Cabinet member? Take that as a no, thank you. So that concludes the consideration of executive reports. We'll now move on to the agenda item 8, the Council Plan Refresh 2026 and 2027. And this is the point where, after the report's delivered, if anyone puts their hand up with a question, it will be all questions will be dealt with after. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council plan and the report are before members. This has been through overview and scrutiny, very good chat about it. It was quite productive, so I'm absolutely sure that there will be no amendments, because surely a competent opposition will brought those forward, overview and scrutiny, so we could have discussed them, considered them, and brought forward an amendment plan, and we would ever be asked to consider them on the cuff.
Nothing to do with me.
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any comments, questions? Please note that Councillor Vincent will respond once all the comments and questions have been received. So give us a moment while we write all these names down. Okay. It appears to me we've got 3 councillors who want to make comments or ask questions, and again Councillor Vincent will respond after them all. So now just Councillor Belshaw and Councillor Higginson, so we'll take them in that order. I had Councillor Sale down as the first one, but...
Yeah, it's me first, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The current council plan adopted in November 2023 could and should have been more ambitious. The plan is not particularly wrong in too many places, it's just that in the main it doesn't go far enough. Paragraph 5.1.1 of the report refers to a big issues briefing paper, but those big issues aren't listed anywhere in the report, so it's not totally clear what issues are and aren't being considered as part of this review and update. According to the authority's monitoring report, 6 of our wards are in the worst 10% for employment deprivation and also education, skills and training deprivation. Yet without any evidence these issues have been or are being turned around, the project to develop and deliver a programme of support for local people to access education, employment or training has apparently progressed sufficiently for this project to be removed to business as usual. On the information provided, the decision to remove the project looks premature and can't be supported. This is an important issue and needs very close attention. The council should be grabbing hold of these fundamental deprivation issues by the scruff of the neck and making a concerted effort to improve lives. So rather than stepping down efforts, how about doing the exact opposite and actually stepping up efforts to improve opportunities and prospects, giving the younger generations hope for a brighter future. Another fundamental issue that the council should be formally tackling via the council plan is the housing problem in terms of availability, quality and affordability. Availability, Wyre currently has 890 empty houses, some of which should be brought back into use, helping those in desperate need of a home. Quality, 28% of Wyre's housing is below the minimum standard, and 68% of homes in Wyre are not meeting the basic energy efficiency standards. Affordable housing, it is evident that setting targets for affordable housing doesn't work, and consequently it is evident that councils need to play a far greater role in housing provision, both new and rental. It is worthy of mention that in the recent 2025 Life in Wyre survey, 12% of respondents mention that affordable housing is in need of improving in the area where they live. Now you might think that's not significant, but it becomes very significant given those submitting responses could only select up to 3 areas for improvement from the list of options. Consequently, the Labour Group approve of the work of the Affordable Housing Delivery Programme with the utilisation of £1.3 million of S106 monies to provide new affordable accommodation. In March, we proposed a budget amendment that would have expanded the project. Sadly, our proposals were not taken up, but we don't give up on good ideas easily. With circa £40 million now in reserves and balances and an impending local government reorganisation, never has there been a more appropriate time to invest some of Wyre's wealth in Wyre's housing, leaving a lasting legacy for Wyre residents. By investing a portion of reserves, the Affordable Housing Delivery Programme could be scaled up, and perhaps other projects could be put in place, ensuring the council plays a far greater role in the provision of both new and rental housing and helping to tackle the many housing challenges faced in terms of availability, quality and affordability. Councils can make a telling difference, improving lives and giving young families hope for the future. Taking responsibility is not something to be feared or shied away from. It is something to be grasped. It is an opportunity to make a real and lasting positive difference. To conclude, the Labour Group wishes to propose 2 amendments. Those have been sent to your council iPads via email by Democratic Services and should be with you, but I shall read them out so that you're all aware. First amendment, that the project detailed at para 5.4 on page 39 to develop and deliver a programme of support for local people to access education, employment or training be kept in place until such time as this council has none of its wards in the worst 10% for employment deprivation and also education, skills and training deprivation. This requires the status wording for that commitment to be replaced with some suitable wording. The council is still working to deliver this project and it will be carried over. The second amendment, that a new housing commitment be included at para 5.3.2, people and communities. Work with partners and stakeholders to tackle the availability, quality and affordability housing issues faced by residents of this borough. I commend those 2 amendments. Thank you.
Rebecca Huddleston, would you please advise on whether or not the amendment is valid?
Yes, happy to accept those amendments, and just to clarify for everyone, we are going to debate both amendments together and vote on them together. Is that okay?
Is there a seconder for the amendment that has been proposed?
I would like to second those. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do any members wish to speak for or against the amendment? You will have 5 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The way the council plan works when it comes to strategies and programmes is we typically having the council plan, what we will do is we will develop strategy, like the development strategy, like the tourism strategy, IT strategy, and then once that strategy and that piece of work has been done, it then moves into day-to-day business. So it's not labelled a priority, it's just that the work to deliver that strategy has been done. So it would effectively just completely change the whole spirit of the council plan if we just started listing everything that we do day to day. And I know it causes some concern amongst members, and it's fair enough, I'm not criticising it, that something comes out, like it might be that we no longer care about that, or that may not be our focus, but it's still our focus. There is plenty of stuff that this council does that lands on my desk every single week that's not in this plan. It doesn't mean it's not a priority, it's just this is the plan for the focus on what we're going to deliver and what we're going to do. It comes down and it goes into day-to-day business. So apprehension that it's not a commitment and something that we're working towards is misplaced. So I don't support the First Amendment. And as for the Second Amendment, it's already in there, a full review of the local plan. The local plan delivers all this stuff. The local plan is the document that we have to have. Okay? Things like the energy efficiency of private dwellings. I'm really not sure what the commitment would be to do about that. Are we going to get insulation for every property in Wyre? It's not something that we can make as a commitment that we could ever actually deliver on. It's aspirational stuff. And the way you achieve things is by having targets, hitting them, and then doing the day-to-day work, and then moving on to the next thing as we slowly, and it always is slow with local government, improve people's lives.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the amendment? As there isn't, would the proposer of the amendment please respond to the debate? Thank you, Councillor Fane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. By adding a specific commitment around housing at this juncture, it means that by the time of the budget meeting comes around, funds can be put in place, put in position to have been allocated without the Labour group having to put in another amendment at that point. So that's the reason why I'm bringing it up now. We've got an opportunity to change the council plan, and we're just getting our ducks in order so that by the time the budget comes around, we can allocate money for particular projects. Now, I'm not suggesting those particular projects are looked at now and determined. What we're actually asking now is that a commitment around housing is put in place. The detail of the individual projects around things like energy efficiency can be worked out in between now and March. So that's what we're asking for, and I ask members to support these amendments. Thank you.
So we'll now move to a vote on the amendment. Can we have a show of hands for those in favour? Show of hands for those against? You can put your hands down now. Any abstentions? No? So the... Go on.
So, Councillor Fale, the point you've just made with regards to sort of trying to get some money for these sorts of projects, this council plan won't be enforced by the time of the budget meeting. So that it doesn't add up. This comes into force in May 26. At the AGM. Yeah, so the budget meeting is before the AGM. So this won't actually be enforced though. I'm quite happy to meet with you to have a conversation about what your reasonable priorities are for what you think this council should be doing with a plan, a reasonable plan, because talking about us having £40 million to spend, I'm afraid, is not correct. We do not know what the future holds. We don't have £40 million to spend. That would leave us with no money. Right?
No, I'm not suggesting we spend all that.
So if you want to have a meeting where we have a conversation about this, I'm happy to have that meeting soon, so we can have a reasonable conversation about what your priorities are, what sort of thing you want the council to be considering, and if there's a way forward, we can do that in a way that means you don't have to drop it on us at the budget meeting. But I maintain that rejecting the amendment was the correct thing to do.
Thank you, Councillor. So by the count of hands, the amendment is lost. So we'll therefore continue to debate the original motion. And we did have a list of Councillor Belshaw, Councillor Higginson and Councillor Molyneux who all wanted to speak. So in that order, can I ask Councillor Belshaw first?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a wording error. I'd like to thank you for putting the train in. I'm very happy to see the train reintroduced in this new plan. But on 5.4.2, it starts with original projects being connect older and disabled residents via befriending and digital technology. The status is this project has progressed sufficiently to be moved to business as usual. And in the new project, you've dropped the disabled. It's only for the elderly. So can we do it, it's a minor amendment, it's like a spelling mistake, but could we add the disabled to the final bit, the new projects, rather than just be for the elderly? I'm not that old yet.
I'll second that as an amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, sorry, just to clarify, within the recommendations, if we go through to vote and the recommendations are approved, that update, that change to that error can be made.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Higginson, I believe you wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an observation that you've heard in this chamber from me before, and it's the rhetorical question of is when is a town not a town? We seem to have a referring to growth and prosperity, a thriving economy for town centres, and I feel it needs to be said. Poulton, the forgotten town. There's always a town centre plan for Cleveland and for Fleetwood and Poulton-le-Fylde and Garstang, fine for that. But when is a town not a town? We just keep building multiple housing developments without any amenities for shops, for dentists and doctors and school places. I know I'm wasting my breath here. So is it a town that's been forgotten, or is it just simply an urban village? And we do well if we get a pulse box. It's pretty shoddy. It's very, very disappointing. And I feel I have to make these comments on behalf of our residents in Poulton, who probably feel that nobody cares in this borough. And quite frankly, I share those views at times, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Molyneux.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's actually referring back to a question earlier on. I'm noticing on 2.1, people and communities, residents live healthier, happier, healthier and safer lives. Now, Fleetwood residents are voicing their concerns to all councillors over the growing height of the Jameson Road landfill. Could you confirm whether or not the council or any other body is monitoring the height increase, and is there a maximum that will be adhered to? Because quite frankly, I was surprised going past it, and it's a mountainous mountain and you're actually seeing it, and it's being commented on. How high has it got to be before something's done about it?
Councillor Vincent, have you finished yet? You finished your point? Councillor Vincent, if you'd like to respond to the debate.
I'll take Councillor Mullins first, Mr. Mayor. The height of the cells is within the EA permission and the planning consent issued by LCC. It's not, again, it's one of those things where we are actively involved in making sure the EA do what the EA need to do, but it's not something that we monitor because we're not the planning authority. Councillor, as to Thornton, in terms of doctors and things, unfortunately the way the NHS work is you build the houses first and then the doctors come afterwards once you've established whether there's a need or not. Personally think that's the wrong way round. I don't think it's tenable going forward, so I agree with you on that point. I think Thornton is a victim of growth to a certain extent. It does have quite a small high street. Technically it's Thornton Cleveland's, and Cleveland's high street is big. But I have some sympathy for what you say, but I think it's a gripe that many areas would have, Carlton being another.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. I believe that concludes the debate. So would members please vote now on the recommendation. So those in favour, please show your hands.
It's not wind, is it?
You can put your hands down now. Those against, please. Do we have any abstentions? So the recommendation's approved. The next item on the agenda is appointments to committees. So Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and one of you propose the recommendations?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm always tempted to amend these, but I won't, so I'll propose the recommendations.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. Are there any comments, questions or amendments? That appears to conclude the debate, and we will now go to a vote on the recommendations. So those in favour, please show. Unanimous, but I'll call anyway. Those against? No. So the recommendations are approved. So the next item is item 10, periodic report licensing committee. Councillor Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report is before you, ladies and gentlemen, and I will answer any questions put to me. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? If so, raise your hand. Councillor Robert Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to ask the Chairman, if I may, she will recall I raised the problem of the Wolverhampton licensing facility for taxis. Have we had any success in reviewing it, given that we don't have much power over those taxis in our borough who are licensed by Wolverhampton?
I think firstly, it's not that we don't have much power. Sadly, we have no power whatsoever. They are not licensed by us, so we have no jurisdiction over what they do. I did ask the senior licensing officer, Patrick Cantley, if there was anything at all that could be done to safeguard the jobs and the livelihoods of our local taxi drivers. And he set up a meeting between himself and his counterparts at both Blackpool and Fylde, and together, sadly, there was no plan going forward. I'm very sorry, there is nothing that we can do unless government legislation changes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. I think that Councillor Vincent wants to make a point.
Just very quickly, Mr. Mayor, just to thank Councillor Birch for her and the committee's hard work. Members will note that from the attendance records that there's been a lot of committee meetings and subcommittee meetings and things, which is why there's a lot of disparity, so the workload has certainly increased, and fair play to Councillor Moran as well for her excellent attendance.
Absolutely, the support is incredible.
I'm sure that Councillor Birch and members will all join me. We have a budget on the horizon and nobody knows what is going to happen, but I hope that the government don't take steps to raise money that will mean that we lose even more taxi drivers, because fuel duty, the VAT threshold are things that would be easy targets, and that would be disastrous for the taxi trade.
Indeed. Yes, could I just actually put on record my thanks to Councillor Molyneux. She has not missed one.
Yeah.
When you get the show. Put on record my thanks to Councillor Molyneux, and those of you who didn't hear, for her excellent attendance. Could I just note, I missed one. I'd had an operation the day before.
That's all you wish to say?
Yes, thanks very much.
Thank you very much. So the report is noted. We've got no notices of motion, therefore I call this meeting to an end.